Culture and Society from the Tribal Roots Studios.
The principle of correspondence, as above, so below, as within, so without. If you're deficient on the surface, more than likely there is a deficiency that you have
Underneath.
inside you. We may not know it yet, but we suspect that it could be there. And maybe that is why.
Bringing you the authentic experience from African villages, towns, and telling the stories from the horse's mouth. Tune in every Tuesday to get a feel and a complete experience of Africa. Africa, Culture and Society, Tribal Root Studio. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Tribal Root Studio, and this is the Tribal Root Studio every day. And today we are in our Culture and Society program. My name is aleenazahir, and today I am having visitors, and we're actually we are continuing with our episodes about marriage, culture, and all of that. But today specifically we are going to talk about raising boys into men. But before I go into that, please remember to subscribe to this channel, leave a comment, share, and if you have anything you'd like us to address particularly, leave it in the comment. We'll be looking at that. And also remember that we have more of these videos on our Patreon account if you would like to have more insight into what we are about. Thank you for tuning in, and let me have my visitors introduce themselves first of all, starting on this side.
Hello viewers, my name is Isaac Kano. Yeah, and I'm so glad to be here today in this wonderful talk.
You are welcome.
Thank you.
On my right, we have a very phenomenal brother. Please introduce yourself.
Yes. First of all, not phenomenal. But the names are Agaba, Ajibon, Akoranga. And I'm also very happy to be with
You are welcome. He said not phenomenal, but we are just about to find out really. So today I am introducing this topic, raising young boys into men. And when we talk about raising young boys into men, we're basically looking at raising young men into responsible men, a generation that we really can depend on, a generation that will fix our communities. And I have nothing really to talk about this, but I believe the visitors I have in studio tonight have a lot to talk about the topic. So Brother Agaba, I'm going to start with you. The last time we were here, we talked about family, marriages, and marriage events. And you touched on something to do with how the men are supposed to raise their kids, especially the male kids, to become responsible husbands, responsible men of the society. I would like you to take us into that once again.
Okay, thank you very much. Our last host, and the issue of raising men, well, the issue of bringing up children has become a very popular subject of discussion in recent years, and some of the most popular individuals, at least this year and the year before, are people who are talking about the subject of raising children and self-improvement in ways that are different from the previous decades, possibly, where the emphasis was on like gurus and spirituality and preachers and things of this like. Now you find that the emphasis is more on preparing the mind of the individual for the challenges of life. And life is very challenging. I like to use what is often referred to as teleological reasoning, which is essentially reasoning from the purpose of the thing, so that you have a better understanding of why you're doing what you're doing in the first place. So a man, what is his purpose? to himself, to the people in his life, to the community, to the world at large, to this experience that we call existence. A man, it's not just the physical or the physicality of the man, it is the embodiment of an energy, right? So you have the principle of gender, for example. You have masculine and feminine. And the interaction of these principles results in a flow of energy, a bit like the North Pole and South Pole magnet. You put them against each other and then you move a coil through them and you have electricity being generated. So that's kind of how it is between men and women. You bring a woman and a man, you put them together, you flow enough, you flow a coil through them, and the current begins to circulate. And it's possible to look at this purely from a physical perspective, which is what sex essentially is, the exchange of energy or the generation of energy for a purpose. But even beyond the sexual interaction, the interaction between a man and his wife, let's call her that for purposes of this discussion, should be one that generates enough current, enough electricity to light up whatever it is that needs to be light up, bring some light in this dark world, as it were. So my understanding of a man is the physiological embodiment of the masculine principle, right? Now the masculine principle is about initiative, it's about doing, it's about causing things to come into existence. So the primary purpose of a parent generally is to prepare the child for life on their own, so that they can in turn be effective and efficient parents who prepare their children for life as parents, and so on and so forth, going on down the line. So initially you obviously deal with children as children, but as time goes on you begin to notice that the boys and the girls have different tendencies. First of all, just as boys and girls, without looking at the individual, which forces us to look at the possibility that maybe boys need to be handled slightly differently from girls. Yeah, so I suppose the first thing that any parent needs to understand is that in spite of what is being said today with things like pansexuality and gender neutrality as it's referred to, there's a difference. Not only just a difference in their early childhood behavior, but a difference in what they will be exposed to in life. There are things that a man will never experience, like menstrual cramps. A man will never know what menstrual cramps feel like, no matter how feminist he is, no matter how effeminate he is, no matter even if he changes his physiological anatomy, he will not experience cramps, right? That's already one thing. They are trying to make men be able to produce. Maybe the man will be able to produce. Maybe it will even be out of a genuine birth canal. Maybe it may even be as a result of the ovaries releasing. I don't know how they are going to make it. Most likely they will probably put a prosthetic uterus, artificial uterus, and they will inseminate already fertilized zygote. And if that's the case, then he's still missing out on ovulation as a cycle. So the belief that just injecting people with hormones and all this is going to make them a woman or a man is, I think, oversimplification of the thing, of the reality of life. Yes. So that's where I would start. I would start by recognizing the difference between men and women, and understanding the deeper implication of the masculine and feminine, positive and negative, as poles of potentiality.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that contribution. And Mr. Isaac Kano,
Yes.
We are talking about raising boys in a family setting, making sure that the direction they are taking is to become responsible men. What do you have to say?
Well, like you said, raising boys into responsible men. I think it's that statement alone highlights a lot. Like any boy who is growing up should be raised with a vision in mind that a man must have a responsibility. A man should be responsible in everything you do. Every action you take should be responsible for it. Yeah, because when you go into a bit of psychology, when these people were trying to study psychology, there is what we used to call stimulus, and there is that unconditioned stimulus, and then there is conditioned stimulus, whereby there is what we call punishment. For example, if you did something, if you did something that was not in the direction expected of you, whether good or bad, but it is not something that is expected of you. Yeah, there was a punishment according to the tests that these men who studied psychologists came up with. So you discover that life punishes. Yeah, if you're not responsible, definitely you'll get a punishment. That's why when you bring up a child, when you see in our, mostly I'll take African families because I'm an African, I've grown up in Africa and I have seen how people have been brought up in an African home. There's always punishment. Anything you move out of line, you are punished. In some way or the other, you are punished. You get either they will deny you food or they will say, you will not get this, or something that you want. You get, so you are punished. This is not just to inflict pain, but to put something in your mind that as you're growing up, you have to be responsible in everything you take, like those simple tasks. Someone says that success is not just one big victory that you come up and, oh yeah, I've graduated from school, I have now a bachelor's. That is not success. You can have your bachelor's and you go back and you are nothing. You end up having nothing. You get, and you end up. We have seen people with masters and all those things, but still they are not responsible. Yes, I've seen a family. I've been in a neighborhood of a family whereby this lady is suffering because is suffering with children because the man abandoned him. Which man is a specialist, a surgeon. You get, so people can still have all those achievements and still be irresponsible. So to achieve responsibility is also a success. Yeah, you count these little things that you do. There are those little things that you accumulate. For example, someone can say, like when we were in school, I'll take it back when we were in school, they give you homework, and you sometimes. Personally, of course, when you're young, you don't realize the impact of what you're doing. You find yourself doing your homework in the school van in the morning, back to school. Yet it is meant for you to do before you sleep, or the day before. They give you a holiday package, and then you find these students who start attempting at what? When they have returned for school, they know they will give us 1 week of confusion. So responsibility starts in every simple task that you have ahead of you. You fulfilling it. It creates, it triggers a part of you to always, whenever you start something, you finish it.
You have to finish.
Yes.
It's always looking at the end goal.
Yeah. So you find that's why we're having issues. If someone goes into something without looking at the impact of it. And you just start something. You see someone starting a relationship, and In the next day, he has moved on to another relationship. Maybe this girl is pregnant, he has run away, where he's running from, he impregnates another girl, runs from there, goes. We've seen those cases, but it's because people are not thinking straight. You get?
Yeah.
They are not, you don't calculate, they don't calculate the impact of their actions. If I do this, what
will
is,
be the-
yeah, how will it affect the other person? Like as a man, you have to calculate your actions to yourself and then to the society around you. How do you affect your society?
Thank you so much, Isaac Kano. He speaks about responsibility in really a very touching way. I want to give you this example. When we were young, I remember growing up with brothers and sisters. You wake up and you go out of the house, and when it's time for those games, like you want to do some playing around the house, around the home, around the plantation. I had the privilege to grow up from the village and also from the urban, like I have all this life. So the girls when the girls go out to play, they're trying to make babies out of fiber or out of some old clothes. They are trying to make those creations of I have a baby and I'll hold the baby here and I'll ask my sisters to call me mama and I'll pretend to be cooking. I'll have these containers around. I'm cooking, come and eat. You, my child, come here. Like that's like a part of my conscience. Even when I go out to play, I do that. Now look at the boys. They're either destroying something, they're either trying to break something, and they're either trying to kill something. I'm talking about the reality of what I saw when I was growing up. If there's a bicycle they can break, they'll break it all. They also try to repair it. If there is an animal they have seen in the neighborhood, they want to kill it. They have these stones together and they were trying to kill it. If there's something really difficult to do, like climbing a tree or trying to cut it, they are there. So like looking at these two examples, I'm talking about this because of what he said, saying you have to first recognize that this is a male. He's never going to be a woman. So my first time recognizing males when I was young was that they are always trying to do something really, I won't say dangerous, but those challenging tasks, wreck, kill, things like that. So I'm just putting that to you. Brother Agama, when you're raising boys to men, recognizing the fact that this is who they are, do you think there are values you can put in them, nurturing values, whereby they'll have that compassion, they'll have the love, the patience to nurture and to tend?
I think there are values. Definitely there are values that are worth imparting in children, regardless of their sex, but men more importantly, because like I said the previous time we spoke, in the end the man is going to be expected to provide some form of protection and to make provisions available. I think probably the most important lesson any child could learn, but men especially, or boys, is that life is effort. Like challenges are real, and the physical reality is dense. It's dense. Everything is conspiring to slow you down. So the sooner you can learn fortitude, this is endurance, the better for you, right? It's also good to teach people, like young boys, to teach them things like forced loyalty, but what effort is. Right? Like we as a society hate effort. We want instant everything, we want comfort, we want no threats, no dangers, nothing. And the price that we are paying for that as a society, especially the men, is that we are allowing certain men to be ultra masculine, and the other men who are not engaging in this ultra masculine enterprise are becoming feminized, which is one of the reasons why sexual ambiguity is becoming, a popular subject of discussion, which is the reason why very many women are complaining about the absence of men. It's important for boys as a value to know that life is going to be challenging. There's going to be effort, but that the effort you're feeling is a good thing, because the effort is a sign that you are progressing, if I'm to use that word. If you weren't progressing, you wouldn't be feeling the effort, right? So the reward is on the other side of the effort that you're putting in right now.
Okay.
And it doesn't stop. It keeps, like, until you're dead. I would say, if I'm to use the analogy of a sports game, yes, from the moment the whistle is blown to the moment the whistle is blown again, you are going to keep moving back and forth to make sure that you win the game, score more points than your opponent.
Yeah.
Whether you're ready or not, whether you're strong or not, whether you feel confident, whether you're prepared, it doesn't matter. You're now on the field, it's time.
Okay.
Or on the battleground.
Let's put it this way.
Yes.
Men are raised to be strong on the most part. It would be so hard if I met Isaac crying. It would be so hard for many women to accept that Isaac was crying. Like, the notion is men don't cry. And this is what I want you to give me light on. What makes society think that men are raised without emotions because we expect strength? And these men are denied the chance to invest in emotions, which I think are part of growth. Like being able to experience life in its softness and hardness. Like you can cry, you can be heartbroken, you can feel embarrassed, like you can feel all these emotions, you can go through all of them, and you're still human. So there are very many misconceptions, I would call them misconceptions, where we feel like a man won't cry, a man won't hurt, a man won't do. So I think like these are some of the values why I think some of the values that the men don't have. When I say we
let me ask you a question.
to have.
Forgive me for interrupting you. Let me ask you a question as a woman. If you went to the border stage and you found one of the border men crying, would you be in a hurry to jump on his border?
I wouldn't. But now this is not the point. This is not the point.
Another situation. If you found a soldier guarding the gate of your house and he's crying, would you be confident about his ability to protect you?
I'm not saying yes, but still I'm trying to drive my point home. Why are boys not being raised as nurturing human beings?
Because they don't have to nurture. The reason why men are being required to nurture is because women are being encouraged to stop nurturing. When you stop women from nurturing, you're denying them their biological role of being able to bring human beings into this world.
Thank you. Now, let me bring you here. We are in a society where we see men abandoning their roles of responsibility for families and children.
Yes.
And I really so much believe that the reason why this is happening is because the men have been removed from the point of humanity where they don't feel anymore.
No.
They don't feel.
No. Let me, I have to step this. This is very important. As difficult as it is to see, there is a deliberate effort to engineer society into a specific character. It's deliberate. There are people who have invested every ounce of their being to make sure that society becomes the way they want it to be. And when it becomes that way, it serves their interests. Is it the natural way of things? Maybe, maybe not. Why do I have to emphasize this? We have to recognize that the environment we are living in is not natural, it's crafted. When you hear programs like the girl-child programs, in the beginning they sound like good things. Oh, the girls, they shouldn't get pregnant when they're still young, let's put them through school, give them extra points so that they should graduate. It sounds like a beautiful idea, but this is the thing. The girl is graduating at the age of 24. Is she going to marry a man that is 24 or 25 or 26 or 27? No, she's not, because it's going to take the man at least 8 to 10 years to establish himself. Which means the youngest man that that woman can marry, assuming she's not willing to wait for the young man to establish himself, is a man that is 10 years older than her. Now, from the African context, it's not a problem. But on a broader societal, the broader societal effect is the young girls don't see their contemporaries as potential men because they are not capable. It's not that they are not capable, it's just that the process of growth has been delayed by forcing them into school, demanding that they graduate, which is not a necessity for life. You don't need a certificate to function in life. I mean, the statistics have been overwhelming and consistent. Most of the men who end up being the richest men in society drop out of high school. And yet somehow we are constantly being told the only way to succeed is to graduate. What is a graduation certificate? It is just a filtration mechanism. Because there's no guarantee that because you have a certificate, you're even going to get that job. Now the job is what is going to give you the capacity to look after your children. So now here are these men. They have all graduated. They have their certificates. They are not getting jobs. The girls they grew up with have gone. They have to get used to these younger girls. You know, they are finding difficulty relating with the younger girls. The younger girls are obviously relating with their contemporaries as well. So you create a lot of
confusion.
The promiscuity becomes inevitable. Now, when a girl becomes promiscuous, she's becoming emasculated. That's the reason why you find that most women who don't want to have children are women who are highly educated and quote unquote successful. So they give you the capacity to articulate yourself well, so you begin to justify your point of view.
Because you are trying to...
You can write a whole book to justify the fact that you're a 40-year-old
successful
prostitute.
Yeah.
That's what you are. You're a receptacle. Every man that you have encountered has left their semen in your body and walked away. But you think that's okay because you're CEO,
can take care of the kids.
You're executive director. No, it's not even about children anymore. Because once a woman becomes emasculated, once she becomes once she takes on the energy of a man, childbirth becomes a burden.
Yeah. So I think that is still the exchange that happens. The woman is becoming a man, while the man is becoming a woman.
Yeah, but why do they want that to happen? Then. What happens if women don't want to give birth to children? Now, this is very important, by the way, because I usually tell people this and they laugh. The genes for intelligence come from the women. There is no intelligence gene. There is a way in which, okay, let me say there are genetic attributes. That extra leg on the X of the woman seems to have those, let me call them subtle genes, which combine themselves into creating what we call intelligence. You know, things like endurance, things like tolerance, things like better memory, things like those small things. When you combine them, depending on how you combine them, you're considered intelligent, creative, productive, and so on and so forth. Patience and stuff like that, the qualities that we tend to see in women. Now, the African woman specifically is the most robust creature on the planet. Robust, like completely put together. So the only success for humanity is for more African women to have more children. It's just the law of averages, right?
Yes.
The more children we have, the more likely it is that we're going to have intelligent people. So you have a country like China or India, where people say, oh, they have got so many brilliant people. It's 1 billion people. 1% of a billion is 100 million. If you only have 1% of the intelligent population, they have 100 million intelligent people. You are only 45 million. They are telling you you're overpopulated. If 1% of your population, the entire intelligent population of India or China, that 1%, is more than your entire society, how do you compete? How do you compete? You can't. You see, it's smoke and mirrors.
Okay, so it looks like the system is engineering this that they want to happen, emasculating the females and feminizing the males.
I want you to look at the word eugenics.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very important word. It's a word from Greece, which means well-bred. Right? And I think it's Gladstone who studied it. Some guy called something Gladstone, I don't remember his name. He's a cousin to Charles Darwin, who studied the theory of evolution, which is being contested now. The idea behind eugenics is that some people are well-bred, others aren't. And you people who happen to have melanin are the ones who are not well-bred. Modern science now tells us that lack of melanin is actually a physiological deficiency. Right? Now, I use the principle of correspondence. As above, so below, as within, so without. If you're deficient on the surface, more than likely there's a deficiency that you have
underneath,
inside you. We may not know it yet, but we suspect that it could be there. And maybe that is why you're more willing to destroy than to create. You're more inclined to deceive than to tell the truth. You're more comfortable with sociopathic tendencies than with nurturing, humane tendencies. And maybe, just maybe, observing other human beings being more humane than you causes you a lot of grief. So maybe it's time for us to get these people out of the way so that we don't feel so embarrassed about our natures. I'm just speculating here, basing on some simple science, genetic science which they themselves developed, which they don't want us to know because they have melanin conferences. This is now well known. They have melanin conferences regularly. They never invite people who have melanin. That's the cause of it. We should ask ourselves, why are they studying something they don't have, which we have?
Why are they so much interested in it?
Why are they keeping it secret? It's us who have it. They should be telling us, oh, by the way, guys, look at what you have. But no.
Yeah, you say that you remind me prominent teacher, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, when he teaches about the white race and the black race. I'll put it like black and white.
Which is what it is.
So he says the white.
I wouldn't use colors, but.
Yeah, he say this is what he says. I'm just quoting. He says whites are devils, and he explains. He says not because they wanted to, but that's what they are made of. And he also quotes things like that about how they lost melanin, to the point when they lost melanin, it was the breeding that was being done by an intelligent person was breeding the whiter, breed the lighter children together to get the most light. That's how they came about. So he said, like, the last person lost everything, and this is the white person. So because they lost this, they don't have this. They have a devil gene. So like it's more appealing to them to do some of the things. Like we are talking about now, destruction, killing, lying, and corruption, and all of these things, and turning the world upside down. Like you telling you can be a girl. Put some hair on your head and you'll be a girl. Things like that.
Inject something in your bloodstream and it will help you grow breasts.
Yes, things like that.
Breasts will make you a girl.
So this teacher says it's in their makeup, it's in their gene to behave like that or to reason like that.
No, I wouldn't go so far as to say the devil gene, because I don't like it, not because it's insulting, but because it brings in another frame of reference, which is the religious frame of reference. You know, the devil versus God, and God is fighting the devil, which anybody who has any sense should know that it's not possible for a creator to fight with his creature. I mean, it's an all-powerful God. So what's the threat that a thing that he created has to him? If there is a devil, the devil is a threat to us. It is within us, among us. It is not the creator and devil thing. That is the reason why I don't like this. I don't believe in that devil-God dynamic, right? Plus it brings in religion, which religion becomes a whole other panoply. For me, the greater observation is the science, which is what they like to glorify. These days, the new priesthood is the lab coat, the white lab coat people. The science is telling us quite simply that melanin is a thing. It's real, it exists. We can see it on our skin, but it's more than what we see on the skin. Actually, what we are looking at is not melanin, it's the pigmentation that melanin creates as a result of being in you. If you look at a plant, it's green. That's the melanin in the plant presenting that pigmentation. Some plants are purple, some are, even the so-called pale-skinned people, if they had absolutely zero melanin, I don't know, maybe they would be clear. See, this is the reason why I don't want to use black and white. Maybe they would be completely clear and you'd be able to see the muscles. And the blind with but the little melanin, the little melanin that is there, and it functions as melanin should. Because compensation. And if you compensate, you create, deficiencies on another aspect. This becomes important to know because as a black man, as a black boy, you are going to grow up in a world which is going to give you different experiences from a boy who isn't black. For one, generations of conditioning have made it such that the moment they see you, whoever they are, including your brothers, by the way, they are going to have resistance towards dealing with you. We are suspicious of each other. We hate each other. So we look at the world and we're like, oh, why don't Chinese like black men? Black men don't like black men. We have been trained to hate the black man. Conditioning. I mean, watch movies. Who is the first guy to die?
Who's the bad guy?
Who is the bad guy? Who has the bad accent? Who is the dumb one?
Okay.
You see, even in movies, it's actually funny to me because even when, like Star Wars, when they have these characters that don't look like human beings, they infuse them with traits that are associated with blacks in slavery. That jive talking, what they call jive talking.
I've seen that also. I've seen a brother, an African brother actually, talking about issues, the issues between African immigrants and African Americans.
Yes.
And it's a big issue. I want to speak about it one day. But then I saw this guy is trying to really show us how these immigrants are really trying to demean the African American society, and which is a very true actually. But in his talk, he has to really mimic the accent of the African migrant, like spend like 10 minutes trying to speak like them in a way that, you're trying to make fun of the accent. And I was like, do you really expect these African migrants to speak your English? Can you speak their language?
It's a caricature. They are really, I mean, look at any movie. Any movie, the black men always have the black man accent. Every black man behaves the same way. They have the same swagger. They all like women. They all have big dicks. They all have curly hair. They all, they all have big chests. If they are not that, then they are pimps or they are hustlers. It is a caricature. And then when the intelligent man starts speaking, how does he speak? In the Queen's English.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen.
That's the intelligent way to speak.
And shake your head like this.
So if you don't wear a three-piece suit, you're not smart. If you speak with an accent like mine, can't you say something that makes sense? Now, if I talk like a Mnyankore, for example, which is what I am, I'm Hororo from Ukonje. If I talk like this one and I go and talk to a young girl in Kampala, what will she say? That man is very local. And
I even hear, like, when these guys are mimicking how we speak, like Africans, if you have watched the Black Panther, you see that accent they are using, they want to tell the world this is how we speak.
This is how an African
And then I listen to that, like, I watched the Black Panther, and I'm like, who told them we speak like this? This is not how we speak. This is not typical of every African person.
It's not an African accent.
It's
There's no
not.
such thing as an African
There's
accent.
nothing like that. So we speak in our dialect. Every culture, every tribe has it. We have many languages.
Even beyond that, go to London. Every single borough in London has a different accent. In New York City, every borough has a different accent. Even among the people living in the same area, the social stratification changes your accent. The accent you adapt, which is called code switching among black people, by the way, is an accent or a form of communication that is acceptable for the society that you have been most exposed to, right?
Yeah.
But now, they create this idea that there is such a thing as a high accent and a low accent, and the low accent belongs to... The point I'm making is, you're raising a black man. The first thing you have to make him understand is his humanity.
Thank you.
And his expectations as a human being. After he gets to understand that, the next thing you have to get him to understand is that he's existing in a false reality, a reality that has been created for a purpose. The third thing he has to understand is that that purpose does not have him in the equation. So you see a picture of a Joe Biden walking with Kamala Harris on one hand, who doesn't even appreciate her blackness, and this other woman on the other hand, I don't remember her name, the Chief Justice, one of the new magistrates of the High Court, and they're walking on the White House lawn, and you see this white man walking between two black women, and you're like, oh, that's an achievement for black people around the world. How is that an achievement? He's just expressing his pimpdom, right? It's wrong for an African to have a second wife, but it is necessary for an African to accept his son to marry
another man,
his cousin, a boy. I mean, do you realize how destructive? It's okay if you are having sex with women and producing children who you don't care about. It's okay if you are poor and you're raising a family you can't raise. You're raising a family you can't provide for, right? It's okay if you're wealthy and you're single or having sex with fellow men. You cannot, under any circumstances, be intelligent, wealthy, with many women and children who are happy, who you're taking care of. That is not acceptable. That is the threat. Because an African man who fulfills his duty as a man to his children and to his wife is creating a bigger problem. Well-adjusted Africans. We cannot live with well-adjusted Africans in a world where we are trying to convince everybody that we are the best. It becomes a contradiction. It's a threat to the lie. We are superior. Okay, fine, we're superior. But why is it that the highest score ever in the history of humanity is being held by Africans? Whether it's in engineering, which is a Nigerian, by the way. A Nigerian in, I think it was either Russia or Japan. The highest score ever recorded in engineering. Right? The smartest children right now. Africans. And it's not an anomaly that Nigerians are the ones who are coming up with this phenomenon. There's something there. No, it's just the most popular society in Africa. I mean, I'm waiting for what is going to come out of the Congo. The brilliance that we are going to see when this Congolese increase in number. This is just beyond, it's mind-boggling. Right? When they are taking over African societies, the first thing they do is to tell their agents to eliminate any man that has exhibited any signs of brilliance. They only want buffoons. People who aren't interested in real political things. They want artists, and this is what they want. They want Africans, artists and athletes and all these things. And then they come and say, oh, this footballer now is going to be president of the republic. What does he know about anything? Not that he's dumb, no. But he has spent the brunt of his life learning how to kick a ball. That's what he understands. The young man who has spent his life making sense of communal politics and is now elevating to national politics, and he understands political science and he knows the threats that we face, that's a threat. We can't support that one. Why? Because when we tell him to, I don't know, lease us the lake or sell the oil to us, he will argue, using our very own words, why the resources have to be more equally distributed, why we have to follow Norway's model or Finland's model. Why is it allowed for Germany to have a specific model, but when the African comes to achieve it, to implement the same model, no, you can't manage this one. It's very complicated. The Germans are doing it. The Germans, these guys are the guys that brought down the Roman Empire. Somehow a Sudanic man who built Europe, the Moors, for those who don't know, now kind of doesn't have the capacity to start a university. The oldest universities are still African. And they themselves are saying that actually the oldest people in Europe were African. So when you see what's happening in a place like South Africa, apartheid, right? People say, oh, you're just overreacting, get over it. They forget that India was once fully populated by Africans. What we call America today was once fully populated by Africans. What we call Europe today was once fully occupied by Africans. There was no white person there. What we call China was once fully African. Right? The steppes of Russia was once fully African. There are no Africans there. They know. They know because the Bolsheviks are the ones who brought down the African iconographies from the churches. It was a mission, deliberate mission. The Bolsheviks were funded by bankers, European bankers, German bankers, to go around the country bringing down all the pictures of black saints and putting them into storage. Many were burnt. Now they are hidden in national archives. When you see a man like Putin being very strong about the interests of Africa, it's not because he has a bleeding heart and is very humane. It's because he knows the truth. When he keeps complaining about the lies and the empire of lies and the empire of deception, it's not because he's very compassionate about Africans. It's because he knows the truth. He's asking himself a simple question. For how long will this keep going on? Now they are destroying the Africans. When they finish destroying the Africans, who are they coming for?
The next victim.
They have made it clear who the next victim is. Mm-hmm. Abundantly clear. In the speeches they make every day, the axis of evil. They don't play. I mean, the truth is there. They are saying what they are doing. But somehow we think, maybe they don't really mean it. They are dropping bombs. And maybe it's just because Putin is the problem. When they get rid of Putin, it will stop. That's what they said about Saddam. Has it stopped?
No, it hasn't. So thank you so much, Brother Agaba. That's so deep. I really needed to hear that.
Okay, just to shed on some light on something, just to drift us a bit back on something you said about men being less of emotional. Well, I don't think men lack emotions.
Thank you. Yes.
Because we are all made of the same complexity as a human being. When you look at the biological aspect of it, we all have almost the same harmonic arrangement. Yeah, so it's just the way we express them.
Thank you.
We shall all mourn, but the way you mourn may not be the same way I mourn. Yeah, maybe I'll not start shedding tears and crying, but we all have those down moments when we are the same way you see me excited or laughing. I also break down, and I may not cry as you cry, but as men, we have that thing in us that doesn't allow us to just break out and you start crying in public. There's that control that you have towards your emotion, and you will be hurting.
A good example when he said, "Would you get on a board of the crying man?"
Yes. So you'll be hurting. You can be broken. But the way you express it is it's usually different from the way a lady will express it.
I gave that an example, the crying bit. I gave it as an example.
Well, let me give you one last one to build on that one, right? First of all, we have to understand that men are built to be cooperative, right? And when we get into our cooperative world, the man world as men, we jostle for position. We jostle for position, intellectual jostling, physical jostling, everything is a jostle. I have a bigger dick than you, I am funny, but it's not necessarily with the intent to dominate, but to establish some kind of hierarchy so that the cooperation is more constructive. So if I go among engineers and we're trying to figure out how to build a bridge, I'm not going to insist on being in charge when there's a man who actually knows how to build a bridge, right? So we shall have that jostle. And I think the bridge should be put here, and this is why I think it should happen. And then the engineer will come and explain to me, okay, this is a good idea, and your concept is actually brilliant, but the sand, the clay, and the stone, the narrowness of the river, things like this, physics will not allow this to happen. And then my friend who is an artist will be like, you physics are deceiving us. This man's thing is a very good one. Don't you see how beautiful it looks? Then the architect will come and say, okay, fine, it looks beautiful from the artistic standpoint, but it doesn't have structural integrity. Let's listen to the engineer. That's jostling. We are jostling. Then in the end, we come to an agreement, okay, fine. We are going to integrate the concepts with an emphasis on the ones that actually work. Now imagine if in that process of jostling, this guy just broke down and cried.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Tribal Roots Studio. We are inside the Tribal Roots in Ishaka Ushenyi, and I have visitors tonight, Brother Agaba and Brother Kanu Isaac. We are talking about society, culture, and community, and today we have been specifically talking about responsibility, raising young men into responsible men. Brother Isaac, when I said men don't cry, I didn't really mean to say it's about the crying bit. I was really trying to show you how much men don't really invest in emotions, to the point that even when it needs them to feel hurt for the wrong things going in society, they're still okay with it. And also looking at the fact that patriarchy, especially from the West, I really think there's more patriarchy in the West than in Africa. It has really tailored a society where men are on top of everything. Even those activities or roles that the women should play. Now, I'm going to give you this example. In one of the villages in my town, there was a meeting. That's some good years ago. And they said, we need to call stakeholders. We want to build a spring. There's a problem of water in the village. We need a meeting so we can have a spring in this village to serve our people. And the whole meeting of around 50 people, there was no woman. But if you moved in that village in the day, the people who are fetching water are the women. So I'm not saying these men are making the wrong decisions, but I'm saying there are things you haven't felt. If you haven't carried the jerrycan on your head with a child on your back, you don't know exactly the pain. You don't have the right interests of constructing a spring. Where, which direction, which distance. So I'm talking about raising these young boys to become men who can feel everything. To the point that even in leadership, whatever policies and decisions are being made, these people are human. They are compassionate. They have they have the characteristics of compassion, kindness, things like that. We don't see this a lot, and this is where I want the discussion to flow.